Good evening, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight? I see myself pixelating a little bit. Hopefully that will go away. I do not understand Spectrum's issues, but we'll go on from there. Welcome, everybody watching us tonight on, of course, TGI Sports Talk, watching us on Northeast Streaming Sports, Let's Talk Sports, and, of course, having a brain fade here, Zodiac. Yeah, so you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of those. Listen, we're going to get into a lot of stuff college football related tonight. We'll have Jim Beringer from Let's Talk Sports join us at about 8 o'clock. So we'll get into a lot of stuff before then. But I have to start off tonight with a somber note. Somebody that has become a very close compadre here in the last 3.5 years that I've been doing this. We've collaborated on a lot of shows, shared a lot of my content to his network, and worked with a lot of his guys that will kind of be taking over the show on Let's Talk Sports. But I'm, of course, talking about Dan Harris, who over in the UK has done lots of work. This is a man who has overcome a lot and did a lot in the podcasting world, helped a lot of people get started. Our own Alan Perales, who started out on this show as one of my top followers. Dan helped him get set up and start his own show on Let's Talk Sports. So Dan has decided to step away from Let's Talk Sports, turning it over, as I said, to some of his top lieutenants over there, which I assume is Tanner, Nick Bodkins, and we wish them luck and we'll continue to work with them. But we want to give Dan our thanks for the time that we've had to spend with him. And, you know, he is sadly coming to the end of a road, not the road, a road, at least in the grand scheme of things. And I've, pledged to keep Dan's name here. He wants to make sure, like all of us, we want to be remembered. And I guarantee you that Dan Harris will stay remembered on Let's Talk Sports. I've enjoyed collaborating with him over the years. His knowledge of sports here in the States is amazing. His own story is amazing to me. And the fact that it's going to reach a sad conclusion is not fun for us, but I want to applaud him all at the same time and let him know that his friendship and working with him has meant a lot to me over these last 3.5 years, and I will stay with him until the end, and I will keep his name alive here on TGI Sports Talk for as long as I am doing this. So anyway, keep Dan in your thoughts and prayers, and miracles happen, but we have to be realistic as well, and I know he is, and him stepping away is just, the next step, and we wish Dan the best, and our prayers stay with him. So again, please keep him in your thoughts and prayers as well. Anyway, to kind of get on to the business of the night, as I said, we're going to get into a lot of stuff. We'll talk about last week's takeaways, some scares for FSU, Georgia a little bit. I think Georgia's scare might be a little bit overrated. Looking closer at it, Alabama, the quarterback situation there is still pretty ugly. Colorado escapes in overtime. And then we'll look ahead to this week's games. Big games this week. 6 matchups of ranked teams, 7 if you want to count Clemson, who probably should still be ranked at least in the top 25. I'm not sure how our video looks tonight, but I got a bad feeling. I will also get into some other stories. Michigan State's Mel Tucker. Michigan State looking to get out, not surprisingly, from under the $79 million they still owe Mel Tucker by firing him for cause. So we'll see. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got all these big matchups to talk about this week too. We talk about Is Alabama done? I don't think so. There's some crazy Kenny Gifford, if he should join us tonight. I mean, he brought up to me in the chat today about, and I think it might have been Paul Feinbaum who talked about the fact that maybe Nick Saban is on a hot seat. Look, Nick Saban's on no hot seat. If Alabama's on a hot seat, but Nick Saban's not going anywhere. No, until he wants to, Nick Saban's not going anywhere. End of story. Let's forget about that nonsense. I mean, it is nonsense. It really is. Trying to do what I can to make sure that we get our feed back to where we want it to be. Anybody wants to comment on that, please do so. So we'll get into all that. Look at the top 25. As I said, we'll have Jim Beringer on at 8 o'clock-ish to talk more college football. Talk about this week's games and some of the stories that we'll talk about in the meantime. And I'll be on at 8:30 if you want to switch over to Sports Scope. I'll be on with Robert Butler for 30 minutes or so to talk some more college football. And he's got a Mac Jones question for me, apparently. So we got with us. Good evening, Rick. Good to have you with us today. Or tonight, I should say. So, and you're Jordan. Listen, I'm going to start with this. So last week's games, right? What do we take away from what we saw last week? South Carolina and Georgia. Again, we talked about South Carolina maybe one of the stumbling blocks that Georgia might run into, even though they had this game at home. They've got a pretty soft schedule. SEC is down. I know John DeLong will probably be in here. Thank you, Rick, for that. As I watch myself, it sometimes look like I'm off. So and maybe I got to stop worrying about it so preoccupied with it. John DeLong will probably be in here to tell me I'm crazy, but the SEC is not the SEC right now. And the Pac-12 is not the Pac-12. The SEC looks to be wide open. I think Georgia's still a front runner. But LSU, if they run the table, their bad loss to FSU will be forgotten. Georgia, last week's game against South Carolina, when you look at it face value, yes, they were behind 14-3 at the half. But they pretty quickly, I thought in the second half of this game, took control of this game. And I didn't feel like South Carolina was going to have a chance to win this game, from the middle of third quarter on, maybe early in the second half on. I mean, do we look at this differently if he doesn't, Kirby Smart does what he normally does or often does. He stopped throwing the football. And they kneeled on their last possession. If they score a touchdown late in this game and they win 31-14, we probably look at this a little bit differently. So again, I'm not going to overreact to Georgia struggling. I am going to overreact to Alabama struggling with South Florida. I mean, a team that won, I want to say South Florida won one game last year, maybe two. Their quarterbacks were atrocious. He benched Milroe for some reason. So Alabama's got an uphill struggle this year, but that does not mean Nick Saban's on a hot seat. Please stop. Paul Feinbaum might have been the one who set this off today. I don't know if that's where Kenny's remarks came from or not. Maybe it was. I tried to turn them on during the day here and there, and I didn't get the opportunity today. Nick Saban, but that doesn't mean Nick Saban may not step away. He's a young 71 years old. So let's not read too much into that. I'm not even reading too much into Florida State struggling with Boston College. Boston College is not very good. Their coach, Jeff Haley's on the hot seat there. The quarterback for BC had a pretty good game throwing and running the ball. He ran the ball for nearly 100 yards, threw for over 300. Threw and ran for a touchdown. These games happen. You got to win these games and escape those games. This is the big test for Florida State coming up this week at Clemson. I know Clemson's down. They're out of the top 25. They probably should be in it. But this is the big matchup for SFU for right now. And probably until they see him again, assuming both teams get to the championship game, which they may not. Duke's got a game in hand against Clemson. You could be seeing Florida State and Duke in that ACC championship game. So again, I don't know that I'd really overreact too much. Now, again, Ohio State, I know it was Western Michigan or Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky has a pretty good offense, and that Ohio State defense held them to 10 yards. 10 yards. That would be a story. 10 points. And McCord got better. And again, this is 3 weeks in a row. McCord looked better. So you look at, we talked about before the season, which quarterback situation were we concerned about the most, Alabama or Ohio State? And I said Alabama for multiple reasons, mostly because the wide receiver core is also a question, and it's not a question at Ohio State. Now, because of one, listen, we've gone from Tua, Mac Jones to Bryce Young. So now we have a year without a good quarterback, and all of a sudden Nick Saban can't coach anymore. Stop. Everybody's going to have a bit of a down year or two. Well, it's 2 games last year, and people are all over him. He's not getting fired, so stop with the nonsense there, number one. What other takeaways? Washington very quietly has now not just won 3 in a row. They've blown 3 people out of the building, including Michigan State, who's in disarray. We know that. On the road. Don't take Washington lightly. We talked about Alabama struggling 17-9, man, or 17-3 on the road at South Florida, one of the worst teams in FBS last year. FBS 1A last year. Florida with a big win. A lot of people, including myself, had Florida winning 3-4 games tops this year. They beat the number 11 team in the country last week. Billy Napier needed this win in the worst way. Utah rolls. Big game with Utah and UCLA this weekend. We'll get into that. There's some really big games this weekend. What was the other? Ole Miss rolling over Georgia Tech. I get it. Georgia Tech's not great. Better than they were under Jeff Collins. Coming back. Big matchup with Mississippi and Alabama this week, especially considering the way both these teams are playing, kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum right now. We got the whole Deion thing, 3-0. And the Deion hype, listen, I'm on both sides of this. There are people who think Deion's a clown, and this is just a circus. And it'll end. Well, look at Deion's a good football coach. Deion's 3-0, but they haven't really played anybody. They were 2 touchdown, maybe more than a 2 touchdown favorite in this game, and they needed to escape in overtime to win. But Deion's a good coach. Will he be exposed? Listen, we'll find out. His first real test comes at Oregon. Game days are going to be there. I'm going to tell you that Oregon's going to beat this team. The question is going to be, are they totally, exposed as I don't want to say a fraud, but if you said before the season they'd be 3-0, most prognosticators had them 1-4 at this point. Got a little noise going here. Let me get rid of that. Now, even if they get exposed this week against Oregon, or next week, or both this week and next week against USC, that doesn't mean Deion's a bad coach or a clown. Listen, take away the sunglasses, take away the bravado. That's just to drive the hype train. This guy can coach football. Nick Saban praises him. I read an article about somebody else who wrote a really, really glowing article about Deion and his abilities as a coach. I've talked with a bunch of people who do not believe that Deion is, what's the word I want to use? That Deion's real. I think what you see is what you get. There's 2 guys. He says it all the time. There's Prime and there's Deion. He could coach. He holds kids accountable. He's turned around a program that's been dormant for decades. They're sold out every home game for the entire year for the first time in their history. This team won a national championship in the 90s. Didn't sell out every game. Does that mean they're national championship contenders? Absolutely not. As I said, and I've been saying all along, they will probably close September 3-2. If this team goes 6-6 or 7-5, it's a tremendous turnaround by Coach Prime or Dion, whoever's with us that day. Oklahoma's another team. Watch out. We're going to take a look at the rankings, and I want to see are the final four teams, are they ranked in the top 10 right now or not? I don't think they are. Oklahoma hasn't been tested yet. They win big last week. Duke rolls at home. Listen, watch out for Duke. Duke could be a sleeper. Pac-12 could be a sleeper for two teams. I keep saying they'll beat each other up. I mean, they had the most ranked teams. What do they got? 6 ranked teams? We'll take a look at it in a second. Now, we expect them to beat each other up, but if USC and Washington get to the final, one's a one-loss team, one's a undefeated team, and they have a really thriller, and they end up with one loss each, and things continue to play out the way they are now. Now, again, we have to know how all the rest of it plays out to say, yes, Pac-12 could have two teams. They could, though. One Big Ten team and one SEC team is very, very probable this year. I don't say likely. Possible. I said probable. Possible. Washington State continues to win big. They got a big game against Oregon State. We talked about the way that league will beat each other up. And Iowa scores 41 points. Get that average up over 25. Coach Kurt Frantz's son, the offensive coordinator, is now averaging over 25 points a game. As we said, he's got to do that to keep his job, average over 25 points a game. What else from last week that I want to chat about real quick? We talked about Dion. We talked about the quarterback problems at Alabama. It just I don't know how they're going to fix it. Milroe's probably their best bet. Buckner can't play. The other kid showed some promise. Simpson, I think his name is, showed some promise, but they sacked him 5 times. So there's more problems on this team than just quarterback. It's the offensive line. It's wide receivers. It's not your typical Alabama team, but the sky's not necessarily falling forever. It does show you that when Nick Saban goes, though, there could be some downtime for Alabama then. And the Pac-12, to me, this is the big takeaway after 3 weeks for me. And we'll look at some of the other takeaways here in a minute, too. But one of the big takeaways is the SEC not as dominant. Sorry, John DeLong, wherever you are. And the Pac-12 possibly with a season to remember as it exits stage left. Stage right, whatever. I don't know. Where does that leave us with the coaches poll? No, not coaches poll, the AP poll. Georgia stays number 1. Michigan stays number 2. Texas moves up 1 past Florida State. They switch places at 3 and 4. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Notre Dame all stay at the same place, 5 through 9. I have no arguments there. Notre Dame will move up quickly if they beat Ohio State. And after that, they've got Duke, at Duke, by the way, which is going to be an interesting game. They have, can't remember the game they have in between. Then they have USC. If Notre Dame gets to USC undefeated and beats them, you're going to see they'll jump people. They could be number one in the polls. There'll be nobody with better victories. We got to get there. I get it. It's all, assumption right now. Oregon moves up 3 spots to number 9 or number 10. Utah up 1 to 11. LSU up 2 to 12. They've climbed back up nicely after that bad loss to FSU. Alabama drops out of the top 10 for the first time in, I believe, 150 plus weeks. They were chasing down the Miami record and fall of double digits, like 14 or 16 weeks short of it. This goes back to like 2019. Oregon State moves up to 14, up 2 spots. Ole Miss up 2 to 15. Ole Miss playing really good football. Dart playing much more efficient and productive a quarterback for this team. Oklahoma up 3 very impressive wins against 3 very unimpressive opponents. So I'm interested to see. I picked Oklahoma to make the college football playoffs. I'm very interested to see what they do once they hit league play. Carolina up 3 to 17 after a win this past week. They're 3-0, playing some better defense. Duke up 3 to 18 with an impressive win at home. Colorado drops a spot after going to overtime to beat Colorado State as a big favorite. Miami gets up 2 spots. They're still undefeated. Washington State up 2. UCLA up 2. Tennessee, the big drop of the week. Tennessee down 12 spots, just barely staying in the top 25 after losing badly to Florida. A bad Florida team, what we predicted to be a bad Florida team. It remains to be seen how bad this loss is. It'll depend on what Florida does the rest of the way out, in my mind. Iowa goes to 3-0 and moves up back into the top 25. I think they moved in last week, so they move up 1 spot. Florida, not ranked, moves into the top 25, falling out. Kansas State with a bad loss to Missouri. I predicted on this show Missouri would beat Kansas State, be one of the big upsets of the week, and don't you know I don't get the bet in. I get off the golf course late, didn't know what time it was, and never got my bet in. 1 for 1 only in college last week. Who else is close? Clemson probably ought to be in the top 25. I do believe Clemson belongs in over Florida. Probably belongs in over Tennessee at this point. Maybe even Iowa. But they're just on the outside, so we can say basically we got 7 top 25 matchups this week. Now, looking at that, are the final 4 teams, let's just say the top 9, because Oregon just moved into the top 10 this week. So let's just take the top 9. We got Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, and Notre Dame. Is the final 4 set amongst those 9 teams? I'm going to say no. Because you got teams on a fly from the outside. You got Oregon playing very well, 3-0, could easily come out of the Pac-12. You got Utah 3-0 right behind them. LSU rebounding nicely. Somebody's got to win that SEC. And if it's not Georgia, it's likely going to be LSU, unless Mississippi State surprises us and they're as good as we think, or they look. Alabama, we can probably discount. I'm not sure. Oklahoma, we talked about. Duke. Listen, if Duke somehow runs the table and wins the ACC, I'm not counting on it. I had them at 9 wins without beating Clemson, by the way. So let's move it to 10. Don't count out a Duke run at 16. I mean, or a Miami. There are some teams way down that still have a chance to jump way up. Now, realistically, teams that aren't in that top 9 that I would say have a shot, Oregon, Utah, I guess Alabama, just because of their track record, Oklahoma, And I'm going to say Duke. Those are the teams with a realistic shot. Or whoever. It could be Miami, too, could be a surprise in that ACC. If it's not Florida State or Clemson, it's going to be one of those other two teams. If there's an ACC representative. But all of this, what do you want to, not a calamities, but lack of cohesiveness or lack of fluidity in some of the big Power 5 conferences, like the SEC, they're going to get a bid. They're unlikely to get two. The Big Ten, still maybe on the outside, a shot of getting two teams in. ACC could go without a team. Possibly the Big 12 could go without a team. Texas, though, is looking very good. But if they lose a game and the Big 12 is not very good, and the Pac-12 is so strong, if they don't cannibalize each other, they could possibly get two teams in there. Rick's got an off-topic comment here. Rams trade Cam Akers to the Vikings for a bag of chips and Diet Pepsi. Good luck with him, Rick, because he'll play about 6 downs and get hurt. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but I think you're going to see some trades in the NFL before the trade deadline. Be very interesting trade deadline here in the NFL. We don't have that in college football, not yet. The transfer portal likely will be opened up to players in season before long. Who the hell knows? Anything's possible with these people. Good grief. As I said, we'll be joined by Jim Behringer at the top of the hour. We'll talk some of these same topics and your topics. Don't be afraid to throw something out if there's something you do want to take a look at. I don't know. What other things have happened here in the first 3 weeks that we should probably chat about? Very little's changed in the first part of the top 10, right? Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, still at the top of the rankings. We've had some big shakeups, though, just below them with Florida State and Texas moving up into those spots, even ahead of USC and Penn State, let's say. Penn State's probably got a good reason to be excited. They've got a big game this weekend too, don't they? They've got Iowa. Maybe that's a big game. It's at Happy Valley, so we'll see. And USC's off to a pretty good start. And I think their defense is a little bit better. I don't think it's great, but they won by, 178-52. They've only given up 52 points in 3 games, so that's not terrible. Let's see what happens when they play a good team. But they're probably happy. You got some teams probably on the verge of panicking, like Alabama. Again, Alabama being in trouble does not equal Nick Saban being in trouble. He's only the greatest college football coach of all time, guys. Give him a break here. You're going to have a bad game here. They've won 10 games for 15 consecutive seasons. That could be in danger. We'll see. 15 straight AP top 10 finishes, 14 straight. I don't know what that is. I'll forget that number. 6 national titles, 3 other title game appearances. And there's like a 1% chance right now that Nick Saban could go under 500. It's not going to happen. But they could very easily have an 8-4 season, maybe. So panic is close in Alabama. Panic's close in Clemson. The Corey Klubick era has not started with great success. I mean, they lost badly, as we know, to Duke. And they've rebounded, beating Charleston Southern and FAU by a combined, 80 points. LSU, with that big loss to Florida State. But here's the thing for LSU. They might very well be the best team in the SEC. We'll find out as we go through the season. I still think it's Georgia, but there's not as many contenders as we probably thought. And I do think the league is down. But if they run the table in the SEC and win the SEC title, well, the FSU game is pretty much irrelevant. They'll be in the playoff. Tennessee, bad loss to their arch rival, Florida. They always struggle with Florida. And this is a bad loss. Great starts and a new lease on life for some schools, too, like Texas. We've been waiting forever. Texas is back. Texas is back. Well, Texas is back. They went to Tuscaloosa and won. I know Alabama's down, but that's still a good win. I don't care what year it is. It's a good win. Florida State, who I was very high on before the season. I did pick them to get into the college football playoff. They should be very happy with a great start, despite the struggles in Boston College, at Boston College last week. Not an easy place to play. I've gone to a lot of football games there. It is a very great football venue, and it can be a raucous place when Boston College is playing well. And it's a tough place to play at times, and Florida State comes away with a win. That's all that matters at this point. That would have been a devastating loss, don't get me wrong, but the win is fine. Oklahoma, the other team I predicted. Remember, Georgia, Ohio State. It was funny. Florida State and Oklahoma. I might be more confident in Florida State and Oklahoma than I am in Georgia and Ohio State right now. I said Oklahoma or Texas would win the Big 12 on the way out. I still think it'll be Oklahoma. Going to be a big matchup with the Red River rivalry this year. Huge implications this year. Notre Dame. Off to an impressive 3-0 start. We find out a lot about Sam Hartman and Ohio State this week. Against Ohio State this week. Sam Hartman and Notre Dame against Ohio State this week. Sam Hartman, I mean, again, unfairly probably had a reputation for not winning big games at Wake Forest. Didn't beat Clemson, for instance. And those were the games that mattered at that point in time. But the problem is, this is not Wake Forest, and I don't mean to bash Wake Forest. Dave Claus has done a great job there, and we'll get Larry Sorensen on here probably next week to start taking a look a little bit more at the ACC and some of the things going on about that league. But this Notre Dame team is better than any team that Sam Hartman played on at Wake Forest. The defense is really good. And this team has national title aspirations, and Sam Hartman might be the guy. We'll find out. We thought it was going to be OSU and USC would be the litmus test for Notre Dame. Now they got Duke in the middle of those two games, and that also is going to be an interesting matchup. Ole Miss. Listen, it's a team that, again, they were 7-0 last year when things imploded, so let's not get too excited. But this is a team that's playing as good as anybody in the SEC right now. Nice win, a very good Tulane team, albeit without their quarterback. Tulane's quarterback was out. But Jason Dart is playing good quarterback, mostly mistake-free football for Ole Miss. They got a huge game against Alabama this week, and we're going to find out just how good they are this week. Again, no better time. I don't know. I guess you could look at it two ways. No better time to get Alabama or no worse time to get Alabama. We'll see how that works out come Saturday. We'll go through all of these matchups here in just a bit. Obviously, one of the great takeaways is how good the Pac-12 is. We thought it would be good. But you've got Washington, Oregon, Utah, Oregon State, Washington, all ranked. Utah, all ranked. Can the Pac-12 have a magical season just as it disintegrates. It would be ironic. Probably a couple of the biggest surprises. Colorado, obviously, 3-0, and most of the prognosticators had them 1-4 after this Oregon game that's coming up this weekend. I still think, again, they'll be 3-2 at the end of the month, but don't take anything away from the start. They're ranked 88 when the season started. 88. Higher in some polls, but 88. Texas State, too. They were ranked 122. They played very well. Beat a Baylor, good Baylor, well, not a good Baylor team, but they bought a Power 5 team in Baylor at home or on the road for them. Duke, tremendous start for Duke. They've got to be bursting at the seams at Duke. At the chances they have right now, they could not be set up better to win the ACC. Clemson's reeling a little bit. They've already beat them. They're going to have a big game against FSU at some point here. They got big games against Notre Dame. Duke really controls its own destiny in a lot of ways here to be able to do something they couldn't even dream of. And that's even contending for a spot in the college football playoff. Colorado's, talk about that. Rutgers 3-0. Don't get too excited. The Big Ten schedule's coming up. FIU's been a good surprise. What else? I mean, those are kind of the stories of the top first 3 weeks. Oh, including Mel Tucker. We'll touch on Mel Tucker here real quick, and we'll probably talk about it with Jim Beringer at the top of the hour too. I want to get into some of the takeaways he has for the first 3 weeks, and also we'll look at some of these big games this week. Mel Tucker suspended, more or less fired. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. And they've made notice that they're firing him for cause, moral turpitude, if you will, probably will be the thing. And Mel Tucker has shot back, and his people have shot back and made it clear this thing will be going to litigation. This is the only way these universities can get out from under these big contracts that they sign these coaches to. There were a lot of rumors last year in Texas A&M, at Texas A&M, College Station, that they were looking for some way to get out of that contract with Jimbo Fisher for cause. Well, Mel Tucker Gate stupidly has given Michigan State the perfect avenue to get out from under paying him the remaining $79 million on his contract. He'll fight it. He'll probably get settled somewhere, for tens of millions of dollars. But how stupid do you have to be? I mean, you take whether he's right or wrong, it's a he said, she said thing. But come on, Mel, you can't. He was separated from his wife, so from that standpoint, okay. But the woman that they bring in to talk to your kids about sexual harassment, about spousal abuse, that's the woman you want to take up with? Bad idea, Mel. Now, this is going to be interesting, too. If they can get out from under this, you may see other schools, again, keeping this type of thing. And again, first of all, I think you're going to see a trend away from these contracts, given the fiascos with Jimbo Fisher and Mel Tucker under different circumstances. Well, similar and different at the same time. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I'm going to wait for Jim. We'll get into the games. I'm going to get into the games outside of the top 25. How about we do that? And when Jim gets here, we'll go through the top 20, especially these ranked matchups. We'll do that with Jim Beringer. And we'll look at some other stuff too within college football. Actually, before I go on, let me look at this because I did have a couple things. There was a couple questions in the mailbag that I think, again, I talked a little bit about, Coach, is Deion just a flash in the pan, or can he really coach? I think he's a good coach. You have to he's different than anybody else. That's why people think it's a circus. I thought it'd be a circus, and I thought it was a joke when he got hired by Jackson State. But he showed there he could coach. He showed he holds kids accountable. He shows he knows how to motivate teams. I don't know how he is with X's and O's, but a lot of head coaches aren't the best strategists in the world. They motivate and they recruit, and that's what Deion's done. Travis Hunter's a perfect example, and I hope he's okay because he's a great player. He's a perfect example. He was all set to go to Florida State until Deion got hired at Jackson State, and at the end of the day, he said he would coach. He would have followed Coach Sanders if he coached in Alaska. So yes, Deion is a really, really good coach. We kind of talked about that topic. There's a couple other questions I thought were pretty good here. If you could redo your SEC picks, who would you have winning the conference? I'm not changing. I'll stick with Georgia. And I'm going to pick, as far as I'm going to pick Georgia against LSU again. And Georgia wins. I'm sticking with Georgia winning the national championship. Until they lose, they're still the best team in the country, in my mind. But watch out for Notre Dame. That was one of the questions. If Notre Dame beats Ohio State and Southern Cal, should it be ranked number one? I think Georgia's got to lose, but remember, the Irish also have games with Duke and Louisville in between those two games. But I will tell you, if they win all four of those games, you're going to have a hard time selling me that Notre Dame isn't the best team in the country, having played the best schedule in the country, if that comes to fruition. I mean, their schedule's looking better and better every day. We talked about Washington and USC both finishing with one loss, and they play a great, great Pac-12 team. Could they both be in the conference championship? I think that's possible. I might talk about that with Jim Beringer as well. Make a note so I remember to go back there. This is a funny question. From lists of Power 5 teams that are 3-0, which is most likely to make the playoff? Duke, Rutgers, UCF, or Missouri? Listen, I said Missouri would be much better, and I said they beat Kansas State. That doesn't mean they're a college football contender. Of these teams, as funny as it may be to hear, Duke has the best chance, and Duke has a realistic path to the playoff. I don't care about that. Is it possible that Notre Dame is not deserving of the praise and substantial bouquets thrown its way? Which team has it defeated? Notre Dame haters. That's why college football is better with Notre Dame being good, because they're a very polarizing topic of conversation. Always. There's always going to be detractors, and there's always going to be protractors. No, that's not right. That's my Perth education again. Let's see. Let me look at this week's schedule here. I want to get away from some of the main games. I'm going to talk about the ranked matchups with Jim Beringer, but let's look at some of the other games in the top 25 and maybe around the country. Miami will go to Temple. Miami playing really, really good football. Van Dyke, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception in 3 games, playing great football. What was expected out of him last year. Be careful. Miami's 23.5 on the road here. Be very careful. Trap game. I think Miami will win, but I don't know if they'll win by that much. We'll skip that one for a minute. Rutgers will go to Michigan. Rutgers bubble will be burst big time. Jim Harbaugh back. Michigan is just loaded. McCarthy's playing some really good football. Corum back and healthy. Michigan should win this game easily, and Rutgers bubble will be burst. We'll talk about Florida State and Clemson with Jim. Oklahoma at Cincinnati. Oklahoma only 14.5. Cincinnati a bit down. Nice win at Pittsburgh, but Scott Satterfield, the new head coach, coming into the Big 12. I think this is a game that Oklahoma really wants to win big, and I like the over in this game. This could be a wager for Keith on Saturday. We'll see. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a wager on Notre Dame getting 3 points at home against Ohio State too, by the way, in case I forget to say that when I talk about it with Jim. Some other games outside of the ranked matchups. Duke goes to UConn. UConn, one of the great stories last year. Jim Mora did a great job turning that program around, getting them to a bowl game. 0-3 this year. Things are not going to get any easier this week. Duke is going to roll over UConn. And they may win and cover 21.5 points. Texas San Antonio, one of my sleeper picks this year, not turning out so far. That's funny. I hit the button inadvertently in the perfect timing. They're going to Tennessee at a bad time. Tennessee looking to bounce back big after a bad loss. Arkansas at LSU. Arkansas has taken a step back from where they've been the last couple of years with Coach Sam Pittman doing a great job at Arkansas, but they're struggling a bit this year. They're 2-1. I think they're going to get their clocks cleaned in LSU this week. That one we'll talk about with Jim. UAB goes to Georgia. UAB 1-2 under their new coach, Trent Dilfer. Again, by the way, going back to Deion, Deion's famous, right? But Deion could also coach. We found out he could coach at Jackson State. So Deion getting hired by Colorado he's getting hired as a real football coach. He's not getting hired as a, publicity move like Trent Dilfer being hired at UAB in my mind. No experience, no anything. Or Eddie George at Middle Tennessee. So anyway, I think UAB will go to Georgia and probably get their clocks cleaned. It's a 42-point spread, though, and Kirby Smart has not shown a proclivity to blow teams out here recently. Texas goes to Baylor. Texas will be 15 on the road. This is a place to be careful. Texas last week didn't cover. I said to watch out for them having a little bit of a lull after that high of beating Alabama on the road. They did win the game at the end of the day fairly handily, but it was tied going into the fourth quarter. Ohio State goes to Penn State. First real test for Penn State. Notre Dame. Iowa is 3-0. Their defense playing really well. McNamara is a real quarterback for a change for Iowa. He can throw the football, but their offense still, despite the 41 points last week, is still a bit prehistoric, if you will. Big game for Penn State, though. I think Penn State needs to have a showing here to justify that 7 ranking, and before they get heading into the meat of their Big Ten schedule. Carolina will go to Pittsburgh. Be careful, 7.5 on the road. Bad spot for Carolina bettors here. Be careful. USC will get started in league play. They'll be a 34-point favorite at Arizona State, who is just atrocious. And Cal will go to Washington and be their latest bludgeoning victim, if you will. Let's look around the league at some of the other games outside of the top 25 that may be of interest. Again, we'll be joined here in another 10 or 11 minutes, probably by Jim Beringer from Let's Talk Sports. And speaking of Let's Talk Sports, I said at the top of the show, please keep a thought and a prayer in your head for my good friend Dan Harris. You can read about his situation and his departure from Let's Talk Sports on my page, my personal page, on the TGI Sports Talk page, and it's a very sad situation for a very good man, and we're going to keep our we're going to keep praying for a miracle, but we understand, life is not fair sometimes, and he'll stay alive on this show forever. I will tell you that right now. What else we got? We got Wisconsin at Purdue as league play really ramps up everywhere. These are Friday night games. Wisconsin at Purdue, North Carolina State at Virginia, Boise State and San Diego State, an important game in the Mountain West. Both teams off to uneven starts. Air Force at San Jose State. The Mountain West plays a lot of Friday night games and Thursday night games, I think, too. We talked about that game. Let's get into Army. We'll go to Syracuse. Syracuse off to a 3-0 start. We'll see if they can keep that going. Our Army off to a 2-1 start, a pretty impressive win last week. They've gone to a new offense this year, as we talked about, a bit of a new offense, throwing the football a lot more. I mean, their quarterback's already thrown for 4 touchdowns, and that's usually a year's output for an Army quarterback. So great job by them. This ought to be an interesting game. 2-1 Army against 3-0 Syracuse. Auburn at Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher needs to start winning games and winning them convincingly. Auburn 3-0, but this could be a reality check for Hugh Freeze here. Other interesting games, no interest for me there. SMU and TCU. TCU, the better TCU plays from here on out, the better that win for Colorado will look. And if they fall on their faces, as I kind of feel they may, that will make that win look much less impressive, obviously. We'll talk about that with Mr. Jim Beringer. We'll talk about that. We already did talk about that. Maryland goes to Michigan State. Listen, probably a good spot to bet Maryland as well. Michigan State in spiral mode right now. Nebraska should get their second win in a row, probably with Louisiana Tech. BC will play Louisville. I won't be betting any of these games, by the way. I talked about that. Oklahoma State, bad loss for them last week. They go to Iowa State trying to right the ship. 2-1 Oklahoma State at 1-2 Iowa State. And Matt Campbell, I mean, his star has fallen. This is a guy who probably could have had his pick of jobs here a few years ago. And, things may not end well for him at Iowa State, unfortunately. What other matchups we have here that we like? Georgia Tech will go to Wake Forest, 3-0 Wake Forest. Still playing really good football under Dave Clawson with Sam Hartman gone and some other of those weapons gone. We'll see whether they can make themselves a factor in the ACC as they start league play. Next week, we'll start looking around the leagues at the standings and whatnot. We talked about that game. Arizona will play at Stanford. Stanford's off to just a really rough start. They do have one win. No wins in FBS 1A and just got destroyed by USC the last time out. Appalachian State against Wyoming, which on the face of it may not seem like an exciting game. I think this will be a fun game to watch. And it's one that I will probably take a look at some point Saturday night. I talked about that game. Don't care. Missouri gets Memphis, 2 3-0 teams. Very interesting game. SEC against an AAC team. So we'll see how that. Missouri, listen, they go to 4-0. Who knows? Again, there is the possibility of a really big sleeper coming out of that SEC this year. And it's going to be interesting. If that happens, you got a 2-loss SEC team. Let's say it's something crazy. It's Mississippi or Missouri or even LSU, 2 losses. Are they getting into the college football playoff? Could the SEC be left out altogether? We've talked about the possibility of not getting 2 teams, which they didn't last year. That always feels like an upset. Possibly. I'm on record as picking Georgia, but possibilities are there for an exciting college football season this year. the last year of the 14 playoff. Mississippi State and South Carolina, both off bad losses last week, will match up in the SEC. UCF and Kansas State will match up, and I think it's UCF's first Big 12 matchup. Who else? Talked about that. I mean, those are the games of some interest outside of the top 25. What else did I want to get into tonight? Let me look at some of the stories here that we didn't chat about. Oh, let's see. News-wise. Oh, sad story in LSU is as their safety, Greg Brooks has undergone surgery to remove a brain tumor. My thoughts and prayers are with him and his family, and hopefully he'll be okay. We talked about Nick Saban when great praise for Deion Sanders. If you ever watched the Deion Sanders interview on 60 Minutes, watch it. I found it riveting myself. Tragically, Dartmouth coach Buddy Stevens dies after he had a bad bike crash a bicycle crash. In March, he passed away at 66 years old. He was the winningest coach in Dartmouth history. Thoughts and prayers go out to him as well. Deion has gone out of his way to condemn the people who are with the death threats against CSU's Henry Blackburn. If you remember, Blackburn had a vicious tackle against Travis Henry, and Travis Henry, I believe, has a lacerated liver, if I'm not mistaken, that he needs to overcome if he's going to come back and continue what looked like a potential Heisman Trophy campaign. He's probably going to miss a little bit of time, and hopefully that is the case. Now, I will say, stop with the death threats. This kid made a bad mistake with a violent hit, but let's stop with the death threats. That doesn't make this situation any better. We talked about Mel Tucker, and this guy, I'm sorry. And again, I'm not taking sides here because I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I don't know where the evidence is. The evidence backs up what the woman accusing him has brought him up. The question is about whether it was consensual. But why put yourself in that situation? I don't understand guys who put themselves in these types of situations. I mean, all you got to do is watch the news. Don't do it. Anyway, what else have I got for news for you? Oh, we got a light turnout as far as comments tonight, guys. I don't know what happened. Our SEC elitists have abandoned us tonight, but that's okay. We will get great reception on the replays and the people who watch us on the rebound. But I do thank you that are here, and anybody who does come up with some comments, feel free to jump in. And we will have Jim Behringer joining us in just a few minutes as well. In the meantime, I didn't mention. I think I mentioned we talked about the Alabama quarterback situation. Nick Saban is going back to Milroe this week. I don't think he has any other choice. Milroe hasn't played badly. Turnovers have been an issue. But you watch Buckner play, he's just no good. Why they brought him down there from Notre Dame is beyond me. And I think the Simpson kid, I think, shows some promise, but I do not think he's ready for prime time just yet, if you will. Kirby Smart was talking about the horrible injury to Nick Chubb the other night in the Monday Night Football game. If you saw it, he does believe his former Georgia running back will bounce back from this injury, and it was a devastating.
today. There we go.
This is Northeast Streaming Sports.
Boom!
We are on. We on.
We're on.
Happy
We're on.
hump day, Wednesday.
Yeah. Our producer's having a little bit of issues, got new system and everything, but we're going to get this resolved and everything. But hey, I'm glad to be here, Byron. A lot of
Week
things.
2, baby. Week 2 was exciting, all I know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a very exciting week. And the NFC East showed their dominance again. Every team in the NFC East won.
Yep.
So that was pretty impressive for the only conference, I think, that won every game, because you look at other teams around the league. The NFC West, I think, they had the same issue because they played good. They played good. So
yeah, the 49ers is still dominating that NFC
West.
Yes.
Yeah. Seattle beat Detroit in overtime.
Yeah.
The Rams are playing them better than anybody anticipated. Everybody thought the Rams were going to be terrible, but they're competitive.
Right.
Lost obviously to San Francisco, but they didn't just get beat down.
No, they got some good young talent, and it's a new look. It's exciting to see the success that they have, and it says a lot for the coach.
And then Arizona played Washington, but they had Washington.
They had
Washington. Yeah. Did you know that Buda Baker's on IR?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he just went on IR. I mean, that's a big part of Arizona.
It's a big blow. Yeah.
But there were some good games. That team from New York, we own New York, and we give them permission to play. Dallas.
Who is we?
Yeah, the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Cowboys own New York, so you know. But,
yeah, I heard they gave y'all the key to the city, so we can't argue. We can't. The first 2 weeks of the NFL season, the Cowboys own New York. I mean, shit. They 40 points in both games, 30-10 and 40-0. So.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I tell you what, both teams weren't. They just, you got to give the Cowboys credit. They've gotten better, and I told you that in the offseason that they were better than. This is the best team they've had in 10 years. They don't have any excuse because they have the defense, and everybody criticizes Dak all the time, but Dak he's doing what he has to do to win. He's with a different guy and that's helping him. Not being with Kellen Moore, that's forcing him to do some things that he's probably not equipped to do.
He's seen so much comfortable for sure. That's what I see now, that he's not trying to force the ball. I think him and Mike McCarthy is on the same page. And I think probably by him calling plays in preseason kind of make him feel, fully vested in what he needs to do out there on the football field.
The most impressive thing I've seen in watching, I went to the game on Sunday, is the running backs. I mean, Tony Pollard played well. I thought that Deuce Vaughn, I didn't think he'd be worth anything in there. But did you realize he had more yardage than Breece Hall and the running back from Minnesota?
Oh, yeah.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
He had more yards than him.
Yeah.
Combined.
He's a spark plug. I mean, you got to give him credit. He's a spark plug. And Man, he's low center of gravity and he's quick and got good field instincts.
Yeah, and then Rico Dow is playing well too.
Yeah, he a good changeup for
I
me.
thought they just released Ronald Jones.
Okay.
They released him after he came off that suspension.
Well, you can't go into a new place thinking that, you're going to be suspended. And then they got some players that they're every day showing out and making plays. And, he just don't fit the locker room probably,
And then you had CeeDee Lamb, who had 143 yards. Everybody was talking about Solstice. What they do with CeeDee Lamb is a little unique now. Remember, everybody complained that he lined up in one position, and that's all he played.
Yeah.
Now they're moving him around. They're getting him free. They're getting him against – he only went against Sauce Gardner one time.
Yeah. No, I talked about that the last 2 or 3 years with
he did.
I just think you have to move your talented athletes around, and that's what you do in the NFL.
It's matchups.
It's matchup, chess match. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple games I want to talk about. Miami versus New England, and this is interesting because New England hasn't beat Miami since Tua is 6-0 against Miami. New England.
New England Patriots, yeah.
And Tyreek Hill didn't make the impact. Jalen Waddle actually had the most receiving yards, but Tyreek Hill is such a disruptor by his being on the field because you always know where he's at.
Right.
And believe it or not, what he did well was block. He did. There's some clips of him blocking that were pretty impressive. And then that helped Rasheed Mostert get some plays. And
Mostert had a good game.
Yeah, he had 121 yards.
He looked like the old 40. He like the old 49er running back.
Yeah, he did. And then there's some teams. I think Miami is a team that's to be reckoned with. I picked them in the preseason to win the AFC East.
Yeah,
and I still feel that way. I think Buffalo came back, and they were playing Las Vegas, but they came back and won 38-10.
Yeah.
Josh Allen had 274 yards. Obviously, Gabe Davis had a good game.
Yeah, got to put him in. You got to plug him into you got to plug Gabe Davis into the offensive scheme of things.
Yeah, and then Dalvin Cook's brother James had 123 yards. So they look better.
Yeah.
I just think Miami's got some things. It's going to be good between them two. They're going to battle it out. It's kind of like Dallas and Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be,
that's not negative against
Washington.
That's
probably the top 4 teams besides the 49ers.
Yeah.
The teams you just mentioned, the Buffalo Bills. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs in there too, but now they're gonna be battling. They're gonna be battling.
I would agree, but I think when you talk about San Francisco, I think what happens with them is they're getting beat up early. And remember, I always say that the teams that can stay healthy are going down the road because it's happening with Philadelphia too. They're losing defensive players quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's what going to have to factor in those injuries. When you get these injuries now, it can go from week to week, and that's why you got to have a good, strong reserve and practice roster of people.
You really do.
At your course.
Yeah. Now I wanted to ask you this question. I had put this in my note. For this week. I know that you installed field turf. That was your previous.
I'm putting in turf in my backyard right now as we speak. I had some delivered today.
Do you think it makes that much of an effect on the play of the game?
No. I just think a couple of fields that I see have a lot of splash. When they splash like that means they have too much infield in the system. But overall, I think, the way we play the game is so fast and so physical. The fields don't have too much to do with it. I just think now with the fibers and the consistency on how they make the system work, it's so much better. I mean, you still gonna have your injuries on the football field just due to the fact, but it's the best thing going. I mean, you the only thing I think that changed the course of some of these fields. And when you had to take out and put, like you might change out the Jets from the Giants. And so there's some inconsistency when you got events going on. But most of the time, if your field is there and pretty stable, those fields are top performance fields. I talked to a guy today about that.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I asked you that is because of the unfortunate injury to obviously Nick Chubbs.
Well, and, Nick Chubbs, and they looking at also Aaron Rodgers, but it's just the way he run and the way he got hit. I mean, that's a factor in. I don't think the field plays a big part of it. Might play a partial part of it, but I just think too, in the long run, you're just gonna get more performances on those fields. And when you go to the combine, you work out on the Lucas Oil field, and you everything is on those fields that you have to get tested on. So
yeah,
I still say it's the best thing going, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but there's been some unusual injuries, especially when linemen start to get hamstring injuries and things of that nature. This is the first time I've ever heard of so many hamstring.
Well, I think too, going back to what we talked about the first week, these guys don't hardly participate in preseason. So you're talking about conditioning and what type of shape they're in going into the season, and some guys just kind of wait till they get back to training camp before they start working out. So of course you're gonna have your hamstrings injuries and your quad injuries, and you're gonna have your pulls. But I just think overall that's just gonna become with the territory. You ain't gonna hardly go play 18 weeks of football in the National Football League without some type of injury or aches or pains or pulls or something like that.
Yeah, because that's what's gonna come down is survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
The Cowboys had injuries also. They had Brendan Cooks, he didn't play. Tyler Smith, he didn't play. And Donovan Wilson, he didn't play, but they'll all be back this week, which is good for the Cowboys because they're getting it out there. Now, the 49ers have some injuries. Brandon Ayuk, they don't know on a short week. They play tomorrow against the New York Giants, and they have a shoulder injury to Brandon Ayuk, and they got a couple other injuries. And then the Giants, obviously, we know about Saquon's injury.
Yeah.
And then also they have their left tackle, Andrew
Thomas.
That's big.
That's
the thing
huge.
about the Giants that's interesting is Kayvon Thibodeau has not had a sack or a pressure. Well, obviously, in the last 2 games.
Well, we talked about him.
Huh?
I said we talked about him. This was his year to really shine, and right now he's sitting on his thumbs or something. He's not doing anything.
Yeah,
and that's not good.
Yeah, there's some guys that were doubters, and I was trying to pick the kid up.
Yeah,
but this is concerning right now. This is really concerning.
Absolutely. When you that high draft charge, you have to perform. I mean, it just is no ands, ifs, and buts about it. You got to really come in and perform, and you got to be able to carry the load, and you got to be effective, just like a Michael Parsons. I mean, he's an animal now. He's showing you how to play the game as a high draft choice, and he was the 11th pick in that draft.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about their defense is really good. They played the run better than I ever anticipated against the Jets because I thought I wasn't worried about Zach Wilson. I was worried about them slowing the game down and being able to run the ball.
Exactly, with the running backs, because they got 2 super
they had
running backs.
Hall and Zach Taylor. But and we'll get into a little bit more with that. Not Zach Taylor, it's Breece Hall.
Breece Hall, and Dalvin Cook. Yeah.
So they didn't run the ball at all. They didn't even try to. I mean, it was interesting. They didn't even try to establish the run game.
Do you think the way Dan Quill how he had the linebackers and the way they rush, with his defensive line and gap control and things that they're doing, do you think it kind of threw the Jets off?
I don't know. I think what's really the advantage the Cowboys have right now is they do have a good defensive line, but they have a good rotation.
Yeah.
They got, like we did when we played, we had 4 or 5, 6 guys, really 8 that could play, walk in, play, and they were really starters. Where I think he has 8 guys up front.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the most impressive thing is everybody's talking about it, but Gilmore has taken that play really to another team to another level, because you can't throw at Diggs and you really can't throw at Gilmore either.
Yeah, they got to throw up the seams across the middle. They really do.
And that's where Garrett Wilson got his touchdown.
Yeah.
On that post play. He was running a post and he caught it and the safety didn't come up and it was over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's and they've only allowed giving up 10 points. I mean, 10 points the whole year, even in 2 games, and getting 40 to 10. I've never heard of that.
That is the top right now. That's looking good. That says a lot.
But what I also noticed about last week, then we'll get on to this week, is that the New York Giants, after being down 17-0, they could have just folded their tents and said, "Oh well." I've even had some people that are diehard Giants fans saying, "This is not our year." They text me, but
I got a text too. But you know what? I was so happy to see them come back.
They did, and that's going to help them for the rest of the year.
That's exactly what they needed, because the way they played last year, they needed a good shot in the arm, and that's what they got.
Yeah,
it was
Rick. We know. Yes, Cam Akers. That's a good one, because the head coach worked with him at the Rams last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah,
McDonald. So he knows him. So I think that's going to help him. And I don't know why he fell out with the Rams.
Yeah, I just think he was on the roster, right? And then this week he.
Well, no, they deactivated him.
Yeah, they deactivated him this week. Yeah.
And so I don't know what happened, but there's no way he can't help him. You know what's kind of funny about it? And I know Rick and Jason are a huge Vikings fan.
Right.
Did you realize Kirk Cousins is having his best year of his career? And nobody.
Absolutely.
He's having his best year, but I think their struggles is their defense is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Michael.
What's going on, Mike?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike, we missed you at the UTA alumni get together this past week. What you was over there in East Texas? What's going on over there?
He was running like he was running from the police.
Mike, right. He called me Cook, man. That's my nickname, COOT. Man, I be giving out my nickname. What's wrong with you? Oh boy. Rick.
Who texts you?
Hey, man, I can't tell you who text, because I have to just shut it down if I tell you. So
I can't tell you either. I tell you, because I might get muted, so I don't want to get muted. So
that is my phone, though. That's my phone.
Oh man.
Yeah. That NY mean New York is getting ready to start kicking butt.
I got muted.
You got muted?
I got muted.
Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. Mike, Byron will help you out, man. He'll help you out.
Mike, man, it's good to see you. Good to hear from you, Mike, man. Yeah.
But, it was good for the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting banged up.
Man, 0-2, man, would have been devastating for the Giants.
It would have been.
With that NFC East, too. And the way Washington playing, too. Hey.
We're going to find out a lot about Washington this week.
Yeah, we'll find out
a lot about this week. If they can win this week, then I'm going to start to believe it, because they go to Buffalo. Buffalo comes to them. I'm sorry. So
and this is going to be a true test for them this week. I tell you that now.
Yeah, because they should have lost that game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the game ain't over until the last whistle, right?
That's it. That's absolutely right.
So that's the thing is everybody in the East. I mean, if you look at the standings in the East, every team is good. Only there is not another conference that's them. I'll tell you another conference that really is at this point in the season is not playing bad.
Mm-hmm.
Is they got 3 teams that are 2-0, and I would have never expected it. The NFC South.
Yeah.
But that's about to change next week.
That's New Orleans. That's New Orleans group.
New Orleans,
Atlanta,
and
Jags.
no, that would be AFC.
Okay.
And the NFC South,
And then Tampa Bay.
In Tampa Bay, they're all 2-0.
Yeah.
So they're keeping up with the NFC East.
Yeah.
But I liked Atlanta. I thought Atlanta was going to be pretty good.
Yeah, you liked Atlanta. I like New Orleans.
Yeah, and you like New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans, I think the quarterback is okay now, but he's going to come back to earth. But the next, the Falcons got a running game. Bijan Robinson is taking it to another.
Bijan. Yeah, I tell you what, I just think that New Orleans is going to be they're going to be consistently good to beat, hard to beat. That's what I'm saying.
Now here's the problem with New Orleans: they lost Jamal Williams, got injured with a hamstring, and Kamara doesn't come back for another week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you can win 2 out of 3 games and have him back, it's gonna be good for the Saints.
Yeah. So let's talk about. Let's get on this so we make sure we get through it. New York Giants at San Francisco. Obviously, San Francisco is going to be the favorite. Giants are going to have to play out of this world to beat them because even without Brandon Ayuk, they still got Debo Samuels, and Kelsey and McCaffrey. So it's going to be hard to beat them. I think that this is like a lot of teams when they get against the upper crust teams in the NFL, such as the Cowboys, the Eagles, and teams of that nature. If San Francisco is this good, defensively, they're not playing like they did last year. They got a new guy that's the defensive coordinator, Jim Wilkes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll find and maybe this week because they're playing the NFC East team, which is, I think they'll win, but we'll find out about them, even though I know that the Giants are injured a little bit. So, and that left tackle is big. And like we said earlier in the show, Kayvon Thibodeaux has to show up.
Oh, yeah, he's
got to show up. So
you can't baby these guys no more. Expectation is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. Michael Wright, give Atlanta 2 years. I agree with him. Do you know who the coach of Atlanta is? Yes.
Yeah. Smith?
Huh?
Smith?
Yeah. Do you know who he is, though? His father is Fred Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, his dad, FedEx.
Owns FedEx.
Yeah, Mr. FedEx. That's who it is.
Yeah, he's Mr. And so.
Yeah, Bijan gonna be bad.
Yeah, he's gonna be good. And Ritter is better than people gave him credit for.
Yeah.
I liked Atlanta. I liked him.
That was a steal when they got him. 8 pick. He was the 8 pick. Man.
Oh, Bijan? Yeah.
Yeah, Bijan. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was true. So I'm gonna go with San Francisco. I'm sorry, over New York.
He said Giants skipped the one against the 49ers. Oh man, let me tell you something, Mike. Man, that's why we play the game. Wow. We ain't just gonna get a 49ers no game. What's wrong with you?
I think it's gonna be closer than you think. Well, I better not say that because I haven't been good. I was one of I was terrible last year picking games. I think that 49ers are gonna win.
Yeah, they'll probably win, but it's gonna be a hard game for them.
Yeah,
I hope it be like a 14-13 game and we win at the very end. That's what I hope.
Let me see what the spread is.
I think it's what?
It is 10.
10 points for the. Oh man.
I'm gonna give it to you. I think 49ers will cover the spread.
Shit.
I'm just saying. I'm telling you.
Well, I hope, like we said, a couple of people wake up. Thibodeau is one of them, and I hope that the receivers can come in and play a good team spirited game.
Your guy Hyatt had a good game, Liz. Jalen Hyatt.
Jalen Hyatt is gonna be a nice. He's gonna be the receiver of the year as a rookie.
Yeah.
So,
what?
He probably be the best receiver of the year.
Oh, best rookie receiver.
Yeah, best rookie receiver. Yeah.
That guy in Rams, Puka, is doing pretty darn good now.
Well, they're gonna shut him down after a while. He just right now he catching people by surprise. They're gonna put some.
Wait to Cooper Kupp and him
Hey,
and Cooper Kupp.
They're gonna put an elbow in his mouth. We'll see how you do then.
Okay.
You know what you do? What you have to do with a receiver like that? You have to go up there and do bump and run and slam him. But you can't let him get off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but the one thing Sean McVay is good at is scheming you. He can get those guys free.
Yeah, they good at they got a good scheme on the offensive side of things for sure.
Here's a game, and I want to get your opinion on it. Is Tennessee versus the Cleveland Browns? The Cleveland Browns are a 3-point favorite.
What are they playing at?
They are playing I think they're playing in Cleveland. I know they are.
Yeah.
They're playing in Cleveland.
But that's the only thing going to help them. I think you got to give them a 3-point favorite when they're playing at home. For some reason, they play good at home. I mean.
Deshaun Watson is playing so bad. And here's what's unusual. Last week, Myles Garrett had no sacks, no pressures, and no tackles. That is unheard of.
I thought he had a sack this week.
No, he had no. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either.
Yeah. And TJ Watts was unconscious, him and Ali Highsmith.
Man,
touchdowns on defense.
They scored 2 touchdowns, one of each.
Yeah.
But that first touchdown that the guy should have caught the ball, either knocked it down. You just can't tip balls. Can't tip balls when you're surrounded by defenders.
I gotta go with Tennessee. I've lost all faith in Cleveland.
Well, I'm going with Cleveland since they're at home. I'm gonna give them another chance.
Okay.
I'm going with Cleveland.
Atlanta at Detroit. They're giving Detroit 3 +3.
I'm going with Detroit.
I got to go with Detroit too. I got to go with Detroit. I'm not going to take all these. Although it wouldn't shock me if Atlanta won, but I'm going to go with Detroit.
Okay.
Because New Orleans at Green Bay. They got
Green Bay don't lose at home, but I just been riding the coattail of New Orleans. Huh?
They got 1.5 for open at for Green Bay. Green Bay is favored.
I like Jordan Love, but I'm sticking with New Orleans. That's my team.
Yeah. Rick is going with Atlanta, and he's going with New Orleans. Rick he's been looking at my playbook. Rick, I got to go with Green Bay. I like New Orleans and what they're doing, but they got some running back problems. So I'm going to go with New Orleans. If they didn't have those running back problems, Rick, I'd probably take New Orleans, but I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Okay.
Take the safe pick. I'm taking a lot of favors.
You're taking home cooking.
Yeah. Denver at Miami. Interesting. It's only 5.5. 5.5. I think Miami's gonna run away with this.
I don't see Denver playing with Miami, that's for sure.
No, I'm going with Miami.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going with Miami.
Here is Rick's game of the day.
What's that?
I got one pick right. I got the Cowboys.
Don't listen to Jim.
I got one pick right.
Well, you always get. Well, yeah, you got one pick.
I did pick Philly to win. I did
Yeah.
pick Philly to win. Los
You
Angeles.
picked the Giants last week too, I think.
I did pick the Giants.
Yeah, against Arizona.
I did pick the Giants. So somebody.
It was a push.
I picked the Giants to beat Arizona.
Yeah, you did.
I have Los Angeles Chargers at the Minnesota Vikings. This is a tough game. They got the Chargers winning this game.
Well, they need to win, but also the Vikings need to win.
Yeah.
So it's gonna
At
be
Minnesota. I gotta go with Minnesota, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think Minnesota is in dire need to win. They got to win this game.
Yeah, Rick, I gotta go with you. I think that the Vikings, but also the Chargers are 0-2. Rick.
The Chargers, they lose this one, they might not make the playoffs.
Yeah, that is true. So that's gonna be an interesting game. It's gonna be very competitive, but I'm gonna go with Minnesota. Both quarterbacks are not playing bad.
I'm going with Justin. I'm going with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
he's gonna have 200 yards.
Woo! Yeah, because their defense is questionable.
Yeah,
and Staley's a defensive coach.
Yep.
So I'm going with Minnesota at home.
Yeah.
Okay. Vikings couldn't beat the Panthers. Wow. I think
it's a different game when you play at home,
yeah.
and you're in a desperate situation to win a game. So
yeah.
that's why I'm going with the Vikings.
I think Staley's job is in trouble.
Oh yeah, if they be 0-4, 0-5, they might change coaches right now.
Yeah. Now here's another interesting one.
Hey, Mike.
All right, Mike. New England Patriots against at the New York Jets. The Patriots own the Jets. Did you realize that they haven't beat them in 11 times playing them? The Patriots, and they only got the Patriots by 2.
They got the Patriots by 2.
Yeah, at New York or at MetLife Stadium, really New Jersey.
That could be a good game.
The Patriots got to win this game. This is another.
Yeah, Patriots are the must win, but I'm going with the Jets.
You're gonna go with the Jets?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take New England because New England's been close and they played some tough 2 games.
Close is just only good in horseshoes, Jim.
Yeah, that's true. Zach will see ghosts, and they will get after him.
Yeah.
Get after him.
Judon don't play.
No, so I'm going with New England because it's a must-win for them if they have any chance.
They have to win that game. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But I just hope the Jets don't convert back to their old Jet ways.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but this ain't a game they can win. I think New England is Bill Belichick. He plays well against. Like I said, they haven't beat him. The Jets haven't beat him in 11 tries.
Yeah,
that's a lot of games.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills. Okay.
Here come the police. All right, Mike.
They can run at South Oak Cliff.
Oh yeah,
South Oak Cliff is a high school.
Yeah, they undefeated right now. I think they undefeated.
2 state championships. No, I think they lost preseason to DeSoto, right?
Oh, did they lose to DeSoto?
Yeah.
Well, they back-to-back state champions over here in Texas.
Their division. DeSoto's a bigger division.
Yeah.
Buffalo at the Washington Commanders. I'm going with Buff.
I know you're gonna go with Buffalo. I need to have Washington lose the game, so I'm going with the Bills too.
I just think Buffalo is starting to play better. They kind of, everybody's been on Josh Allen, and now he's getting it.
Yeah.
Rick likes the Bills too. Rick likes the Bills.
Well, really, Washington could easily be 0-2. Really easy.
That is true.
So,
And they didn't play big time teams.
oh, they lost to Duncanville. Okay. Southport Cliff lost to Duncanville.
Oh, they lost. And Duncanville won the state championship too.
Yeah.
But
they're division up. They won division up anyway.
yeah, they were 6A.
Yeah.
But Washington they had a possibility of losing to Arizona and a possibility of losing to Denver. So, but
they ain't that impressive to me. They just been lucky.
Yeah. So they're losing they almost lost to two teams that haven't won a game.
They're not gonna beat the Bills.
No, I don't think they're gonna beat Buffalo.
No.
But they got it even. Can you believe that? I'm going with Buffalo.
I don't know who I'm going with Buffalo.
Yeah. Houston at Jacksonville. Jacksonville was really disappointing this year.
Yeah.
Last week against Kansas City. So I'm gonna go with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going with Doug Peterson.
They're 10 points. They got 10 plus. So
this is their chance to go ahead and get a little edge on moving in the right direction.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
But Stroud has been playing better than any other rookie quarterback. Did you know that?
Well,
quarterback.
They've been taking the time with him, so that speaks something. That says something for the coaches over there.
Yeah, Stroud. He's been playing not bad for a rookie. He's better.
Well, one of the things I see them doing, he also released the ball to the running backs and stuff.
Yeah,
not trying to force the ball in. I think too early you try to force the ball in. That's when they get you interceptions going.
But I don't think they can beat Jacksonville. Not at this point.
No.
Indianapolis at Baltimore.
Baltimore ain't gonna be beat by them. That's for sure.
Now they're saying Baltimore has got a problem.
What they have?
Odell Beckham Jr. is supposedly hanging out with Kim Kardashian.
What?
So happens when anybody hangs out with? First, they make a lot of money for hanging out with her, but they ruin their career. We never hear about them again.
Yeah,
Beckham was married.
Yeah, I thought he was married. He just had a little boy a couple years ago.
Yeah, but they said that they're hanging out. So I'm going with Baltimore, but Beckham is hurt. He's got an ankle injury.
He's on injury reserve. He's on the sideline.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on injury reserve, but
no, he's not on injury reserve, but he's injured. And then Richardson have a concussion.
Yes, so Rick, he's possibly out.
Yeah.
But didn't Trevor Lawrence warn him about running so much, Rick? He told him about that. He said, hey, you better slide because this is the NFL. They will hit you, and they did. He's possibly not going to play this week.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're gonna release him.
No, he's too valuable to him.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying that concussion, they usually let you sit out 1 or 2 games now.
Yeah, so I agree with him. So I'm going with Baltimore.
Yeah.
Carolina at Seattle. They only got 4 points, but I'm going with. I think that that is true, but I don't think they'll beat Baltimore. I don't think so. I'm going with Ball. I'm not taking no wild picks this week. I need to get my winning up.
Yeah, you better get your pick. I'm going with Seattle.
Okay. Seattle against Carolina. I am going with Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going with Seattle.
If it's at Seattle, there's no way. The only thing, Bryce Young might not play this week. He's injured with an ankle injury. And
Bryce.
Andy Dalton.
Seems like they're taking their time with Bryce Young. I watched that game a little bit this weekend, and he still got some ways to go.
I have to agree with you, Rick. I have to agree.
Rick, you so hard, man. Hey, Rick, I saw where you live up there in Amsterdam, New York.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I did my
He's
research.
a Vikings fan. Rick is a Vikings fan.
I did my research on Rick, Amsterdam, New York.
Yeah. Chicago Bears against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City, baby.
Chicago's defensive coordinator, Alan Williams, resigned today.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but
He resigned.
they said something about they raided his house. They did not raid Howard's Hall, but they raided his house. There's probably more that's going to come on, and this is just hearsay.
Do you think it's a fan or something raided his house? A Bear
no,
fan?
they said it was FBI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure more is going to come out of it. Justin Fields said he played robotic, and they asked him why did he play robotic, and he said because of the coaches. And now he's reneging on that and said it's not the coaches. But that's interesting. So he got some issues up there right now.
Well, that's one thing about losing. When you start losing, you start fingers are being pointed all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, you just so that losing.
So that's not a good sign. And Justin Fields didn't look very good last week.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Kansas City.
Kansas City gonna put some points up.
11 and a half. Yeah, 11 and a half.
Yeah, Kansas City.
Dallas, close to. You heard him. He was those tickets. Rick, me and Byron. I'm getting Byron tickets to the Cowboys Giants game.
I'm wearing my blue. I'm gonna be dressed in G-Man.
That's just why you're not gonna be up in the suites. I'm gonna put you in my club.
I'm gonna be in the suites. They can't stop me.
I'm going.
Everybody in Dallas know me. I'm a giant amongst the enemies. I'm telling you. I'm gonna tell Jack, give me some boxing lessons, Jack. I'm going over there to Jerry World, and I'm gonna be putting up.
Do you know this is the craziest thing I've ever seen?
What?
Jerry Jones has a hologram in the stadium now.
What?
And you can ask it questions and it'll answer you. It's got that AI, artificial intelligence, and it answer it like Jerry does.
Oh yeah, his voice.
Yeah, and it says what they think he. I guess he recorded some things he would say if you ask him.
Okay, gotcha.
This AI, this is crazy.
I bet you that's some fun stuff.
Oh man, it's crazy.
Who Dallas playing?
Dallas is the next game. The Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. I think I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I think.
Well, I think the Cardinals gonna play really, really tough, but I got to go with them Cowgirls.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the Cowboys are Cowgirls, what are the Giants being beat 40-0?
We was on vacation.
You didn't know the season was going to start?
We were still at training camp, buddy. But now look at us. We running the course.
Oh my goodness. That was my 30. That's gonna be hard, but Rick, the way they've been playing, it wouldn't shock. Josh, did you remember, Rick? Josh Dobbs played again.
Midgets. Rick, be nice. Rick, be nice. You shouldn't be talking about no midget. That's prejudice.
Yeah, call them little giants.
He's a call us sleeping giants. I'd rather be a sleeping giant than a midget.
But do you remember last year, Josh Dobbs was the quarterback for Tennessee. And Tennessee did play him close. I think they're going to go back and look at that film. Dobbs can run. He ran for 41 yards last week.
He looked good. He's a rocket scientist. He's a rocket scientist, so he might pick y'all apart.
Yeah.
I played golf with him. I played golf with him 2 years ago. So me and him, we was out there at the NFL.
Been on quite a few teams, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, though. I like him. The Cowboys. Okay.
So I'm going with the Cowboys.
All right.
Pittsburgh Steelers against the Las Vegas Raiders. They got the Raiders as favorite. It's at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. And I know
Well, Josh
They
got to win the
score.
game. I'm going with the Raiders. I'm going with the Raiders.
I watched them. This is a tough one.
But you know what, Jim?
Yeah. This is a pick 'em.
This is Pittsburgh's first game on the road. They've been at home.
That's true. I'm going with the Raiders. Take that back. Give me with the Raiders because just what you said. I like Rick. Pittsburgh hasn't scored. They only have like 4 first downs or something.
Their offense ain't that good.
Yeah,
They got no receivers. I mean,
So I'm going.
They only have a defense. That's all.
Yeah, I'm going with I'm going with Vegas.
Vegas gonna put up some points on. Well, they gonna be at home. So I'm going with Vegas.
Yeah.
What we got?
The next one is Philadelphia versus Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. I'm going with Philadelphia.
I'm good with Tampa Bay. They done slipped up and won 2 games, so I think it's time for them to lose. I'm going with
I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I'm not going to.
Yeah,
that'd be crazy to bet against them there. I got
to
go. Rick, what do you think? Yeah, I got to go with Philly. I don't want them, but you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Philly's got a pretty easy schedule to start the season, huh?
They can just coast.
Because Minnesota was the first game?
Yeah.
And Minnesota hasn't won a game, correct?
Yep.
And then
no, they played the Patriots, didn't they?
They beat the Patriots and then Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They both haven't won a game. Now they play a team that's 2-0, but we don't know how good Tampa Bay is. I would go with
Tampa Bay got some talent on the roster, but I just don't think they can match up with those Eagles.
Yeah. The last game of the week, and that's a Monday night game, is
Monday night.
Los Angeles Rams against the Cincinnati Bengals. Go ahead.
The Bengals got to win this game. It's a must win for them, so I'm taking the Bengals.
Rams have been playing good, but I have to go with the Bengals. I'm going to regret that because it all is predicated on if Joe Burrow plays.
Joe Burrow is getting ready. And I know I talked to you earlier about in the last 5 years since Zach Taylor been coaching, the Cincinnati Bengals have started 4 of the last 5 seasons 0-2. 0-2. And the rest is just look back and see. They gonna make the playoffs. But they got to win. It's a must-win game for them.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati will win this game. What do you think, Rick?
I think Jamar Chase is gonna have 180 yards. That's what I think.
You think so?
Oh yeah. It's gonna be one of his best games. It's coming this weekend.
You know that the Rams only lost to the 49ers by 3 points.
I know, and they surprised Seattle. So I'm keeping up with the Rams.
Yeah. So I'm going with Cincinnati to win it. Yeah. Now, a couple other things, since we got a little time. Prime time, Coach Prime.
Deion Sanders.
3-0. Congratulations to him. Yeah, I saw that. But Deion Sanders.
He's going to get tested this week.
But you know what?
Next 2 weeks.
In 2016, when we won the the Pac-12 South, we went into
Colorado. Oh, did y'all go to Oregon?
Yeah, we went to Oregon and beat them in Oregon, and they had some talent on that team.
Well, maybe they need to go back and watch that film, watch that game.
But I think if you look at it, people are talking the only D1 team they played, Oregon, is Baylor. And they didn't kill Baylor. They just barely beat Baylor. It was.
And you know what? And guess what? They
What?
should have. They could have easily lost that game at Texas Tech. I watched that game because
I'm sorry, it was Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My nephew played on Texas Tech team, and
And they
actually,
should have lost that game.
yeah,
So everybody's talking about, Dan Lanny's telling them about it. I don't think so. I think Hunter is a great player, but they got some good. The problem they're going to have is their defense is not very good, Rick.
yeah.
Colorado's defense is
Their
not.
defense suspect.
Yeah. But I think, believe it or not, I think people are thinking that obviously Colorado's going to get blown out, but it wouldn't shock me because here's the scores. They played Portland State. Portland State is, I think, D2.
Shit, UTA I can get a team at UTA where I went to college and pick and beat Portland State.
Yeah, and they went 81-7. So that's expected. They played Texas Tech.
Right.
And just like you said, it was 38-30. And then they played Hawaii. It was 55-10. So, and Hawaii's not very good.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Everybody beat up on Hawaii. So
yeah. And so that's the thing. So they got to play Colorado. And Dion, he's right. If you know Dion, he's taking receipts. And Lanning said, what has Colorado done in the Pac-12? And he motivates his team on it. Got the loud noise playing. He got all the stuff ready, prepared for them, so they can be there.
Well, he can relate to what make the young people get ready to play. I mean, that's what they're doing. They ready to play.
Yeah.
So they ain't gonna try to not let you not score. They just gonna try to go and beat you and not score you and not finesse you and then have fun doing it. That's what they are all about.
Yeah. So, and I looked at the stats. Believe it or not, on offense, Colorado has better stats than Oregon, even though they've won there. Shedeur Sanders has better stats than Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And then also their receivers have better stats. Obviously, like Rick said, Hunter being not there, Travis Hunter is going to have Dion.
Yeah. You know everybody's name.
Yeah. But
it's funny.
But I think I don't know if Colorado will win, but it's going to be a better game than I'm not impressed with Oregon like everybody else is.
Well, they hadn't played nobody. Really?
US.
Really, they hadn't played nobody. The team that they played, and I watched them close against Texas Tech. Actually, Tech should have beat them.
Yeah, that's
they
what
won in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, and did you realize when Colorado played Colorado State? I don't know if you stayed. I stayed up to 1:30 in the morning watching it. That was the most. That was the 5th most watched night game in ESPN history.
That was really an exciting game. It was fun from the start to the end.
It was. It was unfortunate. Hunter got hurt. So yeah.
Keith. Hey, Keith.
Yeah, Keith thought that Colorado be 0-3 now too, and that's my buddy Keith. But that's just it. He
probably thinking that New England Patriots be 2-1 or something like that too. But they 0-2. They 0-2.
Yeah, they'll be 1-2 after they beat the Jets this week.
Yeah, he'll be happy about that. But Keith knows stuff though.
Yeah, he does.
He knows.
He does. But if you look at the stats, there's a lot closer than people would like to give them because they did beat TCU. And Colorado State was, and anytime you have rival, they're only, I think we used to play Colorado State. They're only like less than 50 miles away from each other.
Yeah.
Colorado is 50 miles away from Boulder.
Okay.
So anytime you do that, and that's the thing. And then Colorado State had a bye week before they played the University of Colorado.
They were getting prepared for them.
Yeah, they were prepared for them. And that's nothing to take away. And I think this is going to be a good game. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, I hope Colorado State play everybody else the way they played Colorado because they were fired up.
Oh yeah, no question, no question. You got a lot of Colorado kids on there too. I think 31 players on this roster are from the state of Colorado. So
Okay.
They took a lot of pride from there, and you can't take anything. Novell had them ready to play. They just, it was a heck of a game. It was.
I tell you what really separated the game was the tight end.
Yes.
He stepped up.
Both tight ends, 87 for Colorado and 54 for, was it 54?
I forgot, but yeah, I know they both had good games.
Yeah, they both had heck of a game. So
that was the difference. I mean, they came in and really made some big plays.
Yeah. Here's the thing you got to remember too. You were talking about Texas Tech. The leading passer was Bo Nix. He had 359 yards.
Right.
Leading rusher was Bo Nix. He had 46 yards. And then this Franklin kid is really good. He's been the leading receiver for every game. Yeah,
Franklin's really good. He's gonna be pretty high in the draft.
Yeah. So the one thing you can look at is they haven't really, and that could have been because they were playing lesser opponents, and they just did. They're playing more kids.
Yeah,
so that could be a possibility too. So
yeah, Bo Nix look good so far though. He don't look bad.
Yeah. So in the Pac-12 you got what, 8 teams in the top 25?
Did I say this right? Only 2 teams gonna be left in the Pac-12 right now?
Yes, Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy. They're trying to do something with the Mountain West.
Yeah, they trying to realign some stuff.
Yeah, they're trying to get them to come over to the Pac-12 and take the Mountain West, take the name, get rid of the name, and make them the Pac-12.
Okay.
Yeah, so all those teams would come over. So there. We talked about everything tonight. Shoot, we talked about the past games. We talked about their impressive people right now, and coaches. I mean, not coaches, but players are obviously Baker Mayfield. And I know he's got a tough game tomorrow. I mean, this weekend against Philly, but you got to give him credit. Philly winning when their offense is not up to Philly's standards is still impressive. Washington being 2-0, it doesn't matter how you get there, you're there. The Giants coming back from a tough first week.
But Daniel Jones gonna have 100-yard rushing too tomorrow.
You think so?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd be afraid of that because he could get injured. But
yeah, he can get in there, but he gonna have to run. Just to keep us going.
Yeah. Bosa should be in better shape for this game.
Oh yeah, this is the 3rd week. He probably fired up.
Yeah, so there's gonna be, like you said, there's gonna be some.
But another thing too, I left side of that offensive line is gonna be a little bit weaker. So I forgot about that.
Yeah, and they don't. Waller is not a blocker; he's more of a receiver. So they don't have to bring an extra tight end to help with the blocking over there.
Oh yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, Tua's been unreal. So yeah. Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Rick, we appreciate you.
We always do. Vikings got to figure out a way to get it done this week. Jason, he texted me earlier. He's normally on the show, but he's getting married Saturday.
He getting cold feet or what?
He's gonna go play. We're gonna play a round of golf.
I hate I got to go out of town. Golly, I want to whoop his butt.
But hey,
it's
that time. We got to get out of here, and
I'm gonna waddle
out of here. Waddle got injured. He might not play this week.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So hopefully, we don't want to waddle out. We're gonna run like the cheetah and do the stomp. We're gonna stomp out of here.
You know I can dance too.
Oh, whatever. Whatever. Hey, have a good time. See you
next
week.
We'll see you.
All right. Peace.